Learn all about living in Cuernavaca, Mexico from Monica Ricks Paxson in this video interview with expats in Mexico. Why did you decide to move to Mexico?
I had a relationship online. And so over a period of a couple of years, I came to Mexico 15 times. I just came every opportunity I could. And the relationship wasn't like immediate. We moved like glaciers. And I said, I don't want to move. He lived in Mexico City, and I didn't want to move to Mexico City. So I drew a circle around Mexico City. And I said, okay, anything within 50 miles or 50, would be, I want to look at. So I've been in Cuernavaca for 3 years now, and it's a lovely place. So,
when you moved to Cuernavaca, do you have a home also, or are you in an apartment? What kind of housing do you have?
Well, I'm in a family privada, a family compound. It there are only 3 houses, or two structures, and I'm in basically a flat, but it has a large outside terrace, with a chimenea and lots of plants and a canopy. And then there's a balcony off the back, and I live on the edge of a barranca, or a ravine. So there's this incredible vista.
Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's
How many bedrooms and bath do you have?
Well, it's very small. We have essentially one bedroom, an office, and then sala with a fireplace and a small kitchen. They're just the 2 of us.
Mm-hmm. So maybe about 1,000 square feet or so.
I don't know. I haven't measured it.
Okay.
There are times where I wish I had more space, but there are also times where I'm very grateful that I don't.
Do you live closer to the city center, or are you outside of the city center?
Well, it's funny. The distance is also relative. People in Cuernavaca think that I'm way far out of town, and the truth is that it's kind of on the edge of town at the north end, or sort of northwest end. But if I get in a car, I can be in the center of town in less than 10 minutes.
Oh, that's very close.
So Cuernavaca only has about 350,000 people. And geographically, it doesn't really cover a whole lot of territory. So I'm, I'm, depending on how you look at it, I'm far out of town or close out.
How much do you pay? How much do you pay a month, or did you buy it?
No, I didn't buy it. It is 7,000
pesos,
and that includes all the utilities.
Oh, that's great.
Include television and internet. And
that's great.
Everything.
So I'm
comprehensive.
I'm not very good at computing in my brain, so I'm going to say it's like probably $500 to $600 a month.
Less, half.
Actually, less than that.
Yeah, 400.
Okay. 400.
And that includes, 450 something.
Well,
like
that's
that.
superb. How big is the expat community there?
It's a very, it's a small, relatively small, very interesting, very traditional community that consists of people from all over the world. And the story is basically that Cuernavaca was a language center, an international language center. And there were many, many languages schools here up until, maybe 10 years ago. And so there are people from Japan, people from France, people from, there are, it's been an international community. But probably the significant proportion of the population is really people from Mexico City. You see, we're only an hour or so outside of Mexico City. In fact, there are people who live here who commute to jobs in Mexico City. And it's one beautiful highway, just through the mountains and the forests, and it's great. But Cuernavaca started as the getaway, the summer getaway, I guess, or for people all the way back to the Aztecs. The royalty came here because the weather was so idyllic, and it has been the getaway for the very privileged. So there are many very wealthy people from Mexico City who come here for the weekend or have second homes here. The standard for middle class or upper middle class people is you definitely have a swimming pool. You'll have a maid, a gardener. You'll live inside walls, perhaps inside a privada or a private gated community. But there are many, many wealthy people who come here just for weekends or vacations or holidays.
That must mean they have very good restaurants there also, since there are a lot of wealthier people from Mexico City who have second homes or vacation homes there.
I would say yes to that. There are a lot of good restaurants. Now, my personal favorite is not a fancy restaurant. It's a fonda that has a fixed menu every day. We would eat there 3 times a day if we could. But
how much would it cost you for a really great meal there?
Well, I just got back from 4 days in Mexico City, and when I saw the cuenta from a meal for 3 people in Mexico City, I said, "Oh my God, we could have eaten, for a fraction of that in Cuernavaca." We have a full course meal for between 55 pesos and 90 pesos. That's for the 90 pesos is for the chile en nogada, the best of the best.
Top of the line.
And top of the line, and it is that will include 2 appetizers, a salad, a soup, spaghetti, whatever,
Nice.
A guisado or stew, and handmade tortillas. Generally, a pitcher of agua, the fruit waters, and a very small, but you still included, a postre, a dessert. So
You sound like you're living well.
Oh, I am not complaining. But like I said, I'm also not, I don't think that for someone who wants to have an English-speaking community that they interact with all the time, this may not be the place for them. The expats are very integrated into the overall community. They do have a they do have an English-speaking Anglican church here that is sort of the center of expat activity. And I would also say that it's an aging population. It is not necessarily where a young person is going to find employment or people to date or, sort of, so it's a demographically mature.
It's not happening
population.
like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, and Los Cabos.
Exactly. Now,
Right.
you see, the thing is that it used to be when there were schools here, but most of the language schools are closed at this point. And that was because of primarily because of the economy.
How well do you speak Spanish?
Well, I would say I'm a slow learner. I speak Spanish. I use it in my day-to-day transactions and activities, very definitely. I study Spanish every day. I enjoy it. But my husband who teaches French and speaks very, very good English, has no interest in speaking Spanish with me. So I still use English in my day-to-day life at home.
And he's a Mexican native.
And he's a Mexican native, right? But thinks,
Sure.
thinks English.
Right. So what are you doing now? What's your job? How do you bring in dollars?
So I started a publishing company. It's U.S. based, and I think I started and published my first book in 2014, and it's a small, indie publishing company, and I also I've also written a number of books over the years, but since coming to Mexico, I noticed even before I moved here, in that period of time where I came here 15 times, but I joined this expat group in Cuernavaca, and I noticed that many of the questions that people had were about medical care, referrals to doctors, how do you sign up for IMSS, whatever the, all kinds of questions. So that I saw that as an opportunity to create or generate something that would be of use to expats, medical tourists. And my husband and I started writing. We wrote primarily for the international medical tourism. We did some work for a marketing company that really promoted medical tourism in both Mexico and Costa Rica. And I wrote a book called The English Speaker's Guide to Medical Care in Mexico. And that book is now in its 4th edition.
Wonderful.
So
And that can
so
be
that's primarily it.
purchased on Amazon.com, I
Yeah,
assume.
it's on
Yeah.
Amazon. It's
Yeah.
in an ebook version and a print book version. But it is very comprehensive. It's not just a minor book. It's the real deal. It has everything from birth to death and what happens to your body after that, and so it deals with life issues regarding health, how to decide, how to make good decisions about where to live based on perhaps health issues, how to find the medicines that you take in the U.S. here, what the options are for insurance or for paying for hospital care.
And you update that regularly?
I do. It's in the 4th edition. That I think probably every couple of years there will be a new one.
Great. Well, it sounds like you've got a fantastic life there in Cuernavaca, and we really enjoyed speaking with you today, Monica. And good luck.
Well, thank you, and it was great talking to you as well.
Great.
I can't tell you. I can only tell people that it's a wonderful country. There are so much variety that the issue is more about choosing the right place for you.
Exactly. Good.
Un poquito el corazón. Todos necesitamos sentirnos